evening, everybody. I'm going to call the Select Board meeting for September 26, 2022 to order at 6 p.m. This is being broadcast via Zoom. However, we will not be accepting any public comments tonight because this is an off-cycle meeting that the Select Board is having, not to conduct business per se, but to go over and set some goals and objectives for the next coming year. We did this last year, and it got us moving in some good trajectory, so I thought it would be good to try to do it again this year. I don't think we have to do the Zoom waving anymore. Tamika told me no. Just that we were the only ones that were doing it still, so.
Sorry.
Mic drop.
There you go. Just because we can't see them, though, doesn't mean they can't see us. Oops. All right. So I had said something last night, thinking that, or yesterday, whenever it was, if we can just spend the first 10 or 15 minutes, big, overarching goals that we want to work on or think about working on, then the next 5 minutes, we can see if we can, if anything, maybe groups together in a nice tidy bucket. And then I'd like us to take our little stickies. Each of us can take them, and if we put them along the sides, because I don't think that we're going to be able to embrace every goal, but maybe we can prioritize them this way. And then we will start working on how actual implementation of the goals can take place this year. Does anybody have any questions, any input? I've not done this in a long time professionally, so if I've missed something, you think I've missed something that would be a good best practice to do one of these type of sessions on, please chime in. If not, we can just get going. Leah, would you help me with if you want to? I know you're looking at.
No, that's fine. I'm just gonna
right on the board
up here, so that way I can still look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if we run out of space, we can do another one.
Plenty of walls.
Plenty of walls, but that's all.
Just right on the walls, we just repaint them, that's all.
Yes.
Should we get some paper plates and napkins too?
Yeah, me too. All right, start throwing them out there. No comments about anything, no saying yes, no, or anything. It's just ideas at this point.
So, mine has always been human resource support. Lacking.
You haven't left the building yet.
What would that be for, Linda? Just
Getting somebody that's going to deal a lot more with reviews and dealing with personnel issues and all that kind of stuff. So
who does that now?
Nobody.
It's nobody really. I mean, between the town administrator and the treasurer, but there's not really a designated person. There should be somebody that specifically is dealing, in my opinion, with those issues.
One of mine is the financial stability and longer term financial planning for town. I think we've talked about it last year, just kind of thinking about taking a more holistic look at the whole finance of the town, really what the town needs to operate as a functional town of just about 10,000, and including, fair compensation of our employees, all the way to a maintenance plan for our buildings and pavement management, kind of encompassing all of those pieces as the big overarching financial health and stability of town, I guess.
Could you sum that up by saying cost of doing business, my mantra, or do you think that I have some, if that includes more than, because we can put both of them up there actually.
I kind of like doing both because I think the long term is maybe one of the sub things underneath would be cost of doing business, but I think there's value to kind of putting all of that up.
Right. I know that Tamika's been doing a little bit as I think of things, or as anybody else thinks of things, but I'd like to look at all of our policies. This is a board that's supposed to create policies, and I'd like to take an inventory of them all and
I had policies and procedures. Can we just add those in?
I don't know if this falls into that, but I'd like to see us do a better job of when people leave the town, having some sort of exit interview. I mean, I know that's not something you can obviously make mandatory, but I think it's a good idea, just as an example, if somebody leaves the PD, have a member of the select board, town administrator, or somebody outside, not the chief, because, you know, nobody's gonna be, it's not about bad-mouthing people, but it's about ideas. Why are you leaving? Because it's easy to say they left for money, but there's always more to the story, whether it be any department. I think it's a good idea. I'm big on communication. It drives me insane when people don't communicate properly. And I just feel like this town, people leave and nobody, it's all rumors. Nobody knows. And it doesn't hurt to pull somebody in and say, you were with the town for 5 years, you decided to leave. Do you mind me asking why? What can we do that'll improve your conditions over there? Because everyone leaves for a reason. They leave for better, you know, better whatever it is, money or quality of life. I think opening up that type of communication, even for people that are leaving town or leaving a department, I think it's a good idea. I really do.
Agreed.
I think that would fall in with the HR support.
Yeah,
I think
and it
so.
probably,
We
and
can
it
bucket that
probably
up.
would, yeah.
Right.
But even,
But that will help us with the
even maybe one,
details.
you know, the chair, once, you know, one member of the board and maybe a HR director, or whoever it is we decide, the town administrator, whoever it is.
I agree. Something that was on our list last year, but it was an awkward situation, was the website and revamping that. And I think now that Tamika's in the office, I think she can maybe help a lot more with that.
That's come up at the meetings
Economic
for the
development.
economic development. They're
Yeah.
really trying to, they pulled up a couple of different towns and they
Mhm.
looked at their websites, and it's day and night between theirs and ours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so user-friendly
Mhm.
as opposed to ours, you know? So that's important.
I was thinking grant management too, pursuing and processing.
Skip, what's on your list?
He had HR support.
And that other one falls under policies and procedures. The naming of squares and intersections or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, we can't leave it go any longer the way it is, because you go down here by Ralph Anderson's, that's disgusting.
Well, he's supposed to be fixing it, so let's
Yeah.
take him at his word for the moment. For the moment.
You mean cleaning up the island?
Well, no,
And
just
I
needs
think-
to
Put
type
a gravestone out there
Oh,
instead of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a
I think-
plaque on a stone or.
I think that was done before the policy was actually in place. We created the policy kind of at the same time that was approved, because.
We didn't approve it.
No,
We did not approve that. That
We didn't
state.
approve
Okay.
it, we didn't,
I'm just gonna,
Okay, yep.
because
Yep,
I
no,
wanna,
that's- Yeah, no, we go the other
I
way.
think we all agree.
Yep.
And I don't wanna be the heavy here. I was gonna make Tamika the heavy, but she's not here.
I don't know if this falls into to yours, but oversight of spending, like our departments, I think when you're looking at the financials.
Yeah. Health and stability. I mean, I can put even just financial oversight, like, also, just as like more of a reminder, we can bucket everything then.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that too, I know that we have fees that we collect. I know individual boards, commissions, and committees collect fees to do business, but I'd like us to look at the overall fees that the town collects.
I would really like to, I'm gonna bucket this very large, as master plan is starting to wrap up and the open space and recreation plan is starting to wrap up, making a concerted effort to take those recommendations, spend time with those recommendations that come out of those reports and develop a plan to do that. Maybe that's including an implementation group or making the open space and recreation committee a permanent committee. It can be both ands. Included in some of that, and we've heard in public comment, is taking an honest look at Community Preservation Act, CPA, doing the education behind that, not just kind of ad hoc throwing stuff at it and everything. I will also lump in the managed growth check-in, which I think I've been pushing for with the managed growth that had passed a few years ago, just to, I think we owe it to the townspeople to say what's working, what's not working, how has it impacted town on the positives, on the negatives, whatever, with actual facts and data. And then there is a sunset clause in that bylaw, and there's the option that town could vote to extend it longer. But if the data comes out that it's not, we don't know, I don't know what the data says because I haven't been able to put it together. So I'll lump that kind of all under master plan and open space and rec, those two go together. But I think all of those are recommendations that are coming out of that, but also kind of stuff that's on the periphery right now, if that's okay.
I know this isn't, well, it is. It can be a goal, an objective. I'd like to make sure that in everything that we are supposed to be touching in town, that we do things purposefully and with intention, not just in reaction to things.
Mhm.
So I think that I guess it is a goal. Oh, in capital letters. Yay.
Should give thought for a definite plan for traffic when they start Palmagussit.
Which is a 3-year.
Yeah, but they're talking, I got something kicked to me from conservation saying bid openings are coming up pretty soon and everything else.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever brought up, I think I spoke to Joe Buckley early on about a couple of rotaries in the center of town, or a rotary. I see a lot of these smaller towns all around putting those small rotaries in.
Roundabout, yeah.
The roundabout, yeah, just a small, just to keep traffic moving, like
There were
in
a
front
bunch
of,
of grants that we're
Really?
getting that.
I mean,
that's
right
why a
in
lot
front of
people come
Dunkin'
in.
Donuts, that, I don't know that anything's a solution, but that, at least it would help, you
Remember
know?
when way back, it was a year and a half ago,
It was
Joe
a-
Buckley put that big,
Mhm.
the whole Palmagussit project on it, and I had talked about,
Yeah, well, I think
That
he
we can
told me
just-
it was because it's a state road,
Mhm.
we're kind of, we can, you know, we can ask them and try to stay involved and try to stay in the conversation, but there's not a lot, we can't force them to do it.
no.
But
Is
it's
there
based
any
on,
place else in town that
has
you
one of
would
the,
think that you would think that,
well, I mean, right off the get-go, you could use one in front of Dunkin' and one
Oh,
in
yeah.
front of Maple. I mean, right there.
I think that setup is.
I think that whole area right there could use two of those small rotaries just to keep that traffic flowing. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's not enough travel by cars in order to justify a light. Somebody was telling me that. I don't know if it's true or not. Gary, I don't know if you know that, but
That's true.
Yeah.
We've had them try to look at it several times.
well,
Right.
they just had those counters across, they're
Mhm.
gone now.
yeah, I think the roundabout would be much better than the light personally, because
I do
it just
too.
keeps traffic moving, and that's, you know, the early in the morning with the school buses, and then the rush coming home. I mean, it's a nightmare. You got people cutting through the church, cutting through the PD, and someone's gonna get hurt. You know,
Surprised it hasn't.
that Dunkin' Donuts, I can't believe. Thank God there hasn't, but I can't believe there hasn't been major accidents there.
No, because
You know, fender benders,
there's
but
like five
I know.
things coming
It's
at the
crazy.
same time.
Better management of like grants for like federal and state funds that come in, just like ARPA. I think it needs to be more planned and not like a free for all free money. I think it's got to be better planning when funds like that come in.
Just be, maybe,
I was
the
gonna-
spending, so it's, yeah. And I think that part of the fiscal part is, and I've said it with the fees that we collect, but we always are looking at the expenditures I'd like to start looking at what's coming in. How can, we get only half the picture.
That's because we only get half that come in. Twice as much goes up.
Twice as much goes out.
I would like to have us revisit the TA situation and just have a plan for that and what that plan is. I think some of this stuff, for example, the financial health and stability piece, a number of towns do a long-term planning, financial planning committee, but it's basically formed through the TA. It's a TA group, and so I feel like still having an interim is hard to do some of these forming if we don't have if the interim is an so a plan for the TA.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else at the moment? I expect that other things will blossom out of this as we start talking a little bit more. But
I have
my list. It was such a small list. I thought for sure, but this is such a small.
This is kind of going off. This is kind of going off from last year. Also, the improving communication with boards and commissions and the town as a whole. I'm lumping that together. I know the library and I've fallen off from talking to the library because of summer, and then, but getting an education piece for town as to how local government works, and then working us and the boards and commissions working together to obtain to meet some of our goals, work towards some of our goals, but also just so that we know what they're working on, and that it opens up that layer of communication. Because I think even now within some of the other boards and commissions that should have some good communication between each other, they don't really, and there's frustration there, I think. So that was something from last year.
And so something that I was thinking about, and I don't have an opinion one way or the other, so I'll just put it out there that the select board used to have representation on different boards and commissions.
Yeah, it used to
similar
work
to what you're
good.
doing.
Used to
So
work good too.
Finance committee had them too.
I don't know
Until-
why it dropped off. So
Until the person started dictating to the supervisor what they should be doing or what they shouldn't be
Well,
doing.
they want us to be a part of it, because I don't know if you heard, I accidentally walked in on one of their meetings. I don't know which one it was, a financial meeting or something.
you're here.
I thought it was something else. They went, "Oh my, hallelujah, report." I said, "No, I'm not here for this."
Just kidding.
It
Okay.
was an accident. So they would like to see us. It seems like.
Finance, yeah, they would love to see us there all
Sure.
the time. So they can bitch at you.
Well, that's it, Joe.
I mean, sometimes it just, the only ones that I attended in person with finance were the ones during the budget season, but it was interesting for me, as well as they would look at it and go, not that I was making decisions, but they were like talking to me in the room, even
Yeah.
though I had nothing to say. But I think it gives them
Skip
some
used to
sense.
go to all the finance.
I used to go to every single one of them.
So did I, but I was actually in.
You had to be there.
And I did go to most of them, I think, over the last couple of years. But everything was Zoom, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see us try hard. I mean, there's so many things we want to do, and we're not going to be able to snap our fingers and
Correct.
get any of this done. I think a couple of the departments in this town that are making money, I'd like to help them more. You know, you have the before and after school program. You have recreation. We're turning kids away. You know, this has come up in meetings before. We're turning them away. That's money. These programs are self-funded,
Yeah, I
and
think
we're giving them nothing
Yeah.
to work with.
I think that part of where we were talking, was something was brought up with buildings, or is that just in my mind?
I kind of lumped it in, I think, with the financial health and stability, taking all of those plans, like the pavement management plan and the building
Yeah.
maintenance plan and
Yeah.
everything also.
Yeah.
But
I envision that as like, I had said a chessboard, but chess is competitive. I think it's more of everybody's got pieces of this puzzle, and we need to put it all out on the table and figure out what's fitting where, and there's things that can happen, and I think we all We have all excellent ideas, but
It's
because
just
it's
we've got a
not
lot
part
of-
of our job.
We've got some nice property in town, and I just feel like it's not, it's not even being maintained at the basic level. Forget about, I mean, look at, some of these surrounding towns are putting these brand-new AstroTurf fields in. They cannot keep the kids, they could run round-the-clock, 24-hour a day with these programs.
Right.
It's endless, the need is unbelievable. And I just think that would be so much, I think that's doable in the short term, from the 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, as opposed to thinking down the road, building major infrastructure, buildings and everything like that. And I don't see commercial rushing in here. I don't see industry rushing in here.
No.
It's just not gonna happen. It's a pipe dream. Maybe down the road. But I think if we try and work with some of the things we have, I think it's doable, you know? And at the very least, like I said, these programs seem to be paying for themselves. Not one dime.
You and I have talked about that.
I think this might fit under with boards and commissions as well as financial health and stability, but I think Gary alluded to it at our last board meeting, starting to work with CIPC and Becky with the debt that's falling off and additional projects or programs or something that we might want to put on to maintain that level of taxation. And I think that there is that I would hope that maybe we as a board can also be involved in those brainstorming conversations, because I feel like recently sometimes there's been decisions that have just been made without much input from the board as a whole, maybe an individual person or two, but that there hasn't been an opportunity for conversation and to really kind of duke it out as to what would be the best for all of town and everything. So maybe that goes in with the boards and commissions relationships as well as the financial health and stability.
I have a thing with the library, we pay for it, but we can't. All the empty space down here that they don't use, the town should have some control
Absolutely.
over making it offices or whatever, but unless the whole board talks to this library commission, we ain't get nowhere, because I know I never got anywhere with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you go down the other side there, and even over the other side of over the other side of the communication center here,
Empty.
there's empty spaces.
Empty, right?
Okay. What do you think? I don't want to say.
Leah's still looking at him.
Oh, yes.
You do your list.
Just
Just do it. Just say it. Just do it.
So up with the other
You have the
ones-
pen.
No, I'm not gonna. The other things I had were kind of, I think they fit in other places, like the policy, revisiting the 61A policy that came before us at the last board meeting. I think there's been some serious movement on a conservation agent with, a shared conservation agent with Paxton, but that kind of goes in working with boards and commissions to try to have, actually as a board, if the board agrees to that, reaching out to Concom and having those conversations and everything. So I think some of that is, you know, my notes to myself, but fall within the broader.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to do all of this. I think that. Can we see where things might bucket? You drew one.
Do you want me to go
One
over there
line.
to bucket things?
Sure. If you want
Or
to.
do you have another color marker that I can?
I do. I have green or purple.
I don't know.
The purple one is thin.
That's fine.
Um,
So in some,
Are you looking to prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is that what you're looking
no,
to do?
we're
or
trying to see if we
grouping
can get bigger buckets, and then maybe we can prioritize.
Yeah, some of them can be combined.
so some of it, I think policies and procedures, maybe we could lump like the fees portion.
The fees portion, not maybe the
Right.
financial oversight.
And then we can move the financial oversight, just kind of overall financial.
And does grant management fit under a bigger bucket of finance? I know it doesn't,
I almost
it
look at it
doesn't
more as like
align, but
personnel or something, you know, and that would go with the plan for the TA, and the staffing, maybe it's a bigger an HR.
a staffing.
Right.
I think it kind of ties into planning, you know? A lot of planners are a lot more involved in the grants and stuff.
Yeah, but
So,
you need a town planner to, never mind.
so HR support, I think, was a little bit, that sounded like it was day to day, but I
Right.
wonder if staffing.
Like overall staffing and
Staffing, and
then
then-
HR support goes in there with
Yes,
TA
there you go.
with, okay.
There you go.
So I put other also, just,
Oh, yeah.
and then this would go exit interviews. I don't want to write on the
Do you want
wall.
to cross out?
Yeah, I was gonna like,
We used to do that, exit interviews.
we haven't in a long time. I don't think since I've been on the board.
The last one we did was when Pete DeFleury left with our previous town administrator, and he did nothing about it.
And, yeah, I don't think I was on the board, I think, when Pete left, but I didn't know. Yeah,
Cross out grant
yeah,
management.
sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Um,
TA. And this could be, I mean, everything under staffing from the department, how many people we have and
Right.
the sufficiency or the,
Right. I think that staffing and a little bit of the financial health and like stability of town kind of go a little bit together, because a lot of the staffing has to fall under the financial piece because we need to be able to support it financially. But there's a lot more to it than that. So should I put financial?
I would just say financial, so.
Right. And then, because even funding management can go under that, like, right? So we did this. I'm not like, I still want to be able to see what the subthings are. Oversight, right?
Yeah, oversight.
Cost of doing business even, because that's gonna help us determine if, yeah. Can you, I know I'm writing kind of small, sorry.
No, we can read it.
Okay.
Oh, I can, and I'm the oldest in here, I should be the blindest.
I'm the oldest.
Then, what do you guys think? Maybe, should, under financial, should I put the, like the management reports that we, like the building and the pavement managements, just to reference that's, we should be including that, or?
Or is that more,
I almost
So-
feel like in some ways that's like master
I do
planish,
too.
like,
Yep.
so more, maybe
That's what I
just
was gonna say,
planning in
so-
general, and then that includes this, plus the plan for traffic, plus, even, I would say even help for all departments, cause I think that covers a lot of, master plan has a section about town services and everything also.
Yep.
And I'm putting planning, but not necessarily like planning board, planning office,
Oh, yeah, no,
just
just.
No,
the
just
overarching,
overall
like,
planning, no.
right.
Yeah, yep.
Can you, oh, never mind.
What?
Nope, just don't forget communication.
Okay.
That's gonna be another big bucket, I think.
Alright.
How's the cows?
I don't know, I haven't heard no
No,
word,
no,
so.
no news? Good
No news is good news, you know that saying.
I'm the only one eating your pizza, Carol.
I had one.
It's been a long time since I've seen the cows this way. Been years, 3-4 years. I like it. Whether there's a bear down back or whatever, I don't know.
Oh, well.
Then do you want me, is
I think
there anything else that needs to go under planning? Then maybe it's communication,
communication, and then I would say
policies
website.
and procedures. Do you think website could go under policies and procedures or with I would almost say under communication.
communication.
I'd say communications too, yeah.
So then we'll say websites, the boards and commissions,
Mhm.
public.
Yes, that's
public-
what I was thinking
Okay.
about it, that website. And then I think the policies and procedures, that's where they live, and it's our communication. Yep.
And then you think website under communication also?
Yeah.
Oh, I have website.
I did that one.
And then, do you think policies and procedures?
I do,
Here also?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd like to see it by itself so we get it done and over with quickly. But
And then I think this is kind
Our
of.
mission statement.
Right, I was just gonna say more of the overarching, like, what should be driving us.
Look at that. I'm
That's
Pat
what they
yourself,
did, yeah.
pat ourselves on the back. I think we did that very well in
And we
half
came-
an hour.
And last year we had like, what, 4? 2?
I think we had 4 or 5 last year.
But I felt like last year they were a little bit more like broad and we
Yeah.
kind of were going through, we kept them very high level. Where
Yeah.
now I like having them high level, but also having at least
some
conversation
Some bullet points to,
about things that kind of fall
So-
under.
I'm going to suggest that we don't even prioritize these because I think it's a doable.
yeah,
Yes.
just like I got it, it's pretty good.
I'd like us to figure out, we can only have 2 people from the board assigned to any particular project because that's the way it is. There are some things that we might want to ask, and this just popped into my head sitting here, do we invite somebody from another board, especially if it's got something to do with their wheelhouse? Do we invite somebody
Sure, why
that's
not?
on staff to help with some of these things? They may have more knowledge than we do. We know that it's a pain point, but you have the knowledge. We can help.
I think the more people you open it up to, the better.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as they're all coming in to help, like we're here,
Yep.
how can it hurt?
Yeah.
Good ideas,
And I was gonna say, we as a 5-member board that need to kind of do everything either together or blessed by everyone in twos.
Right.
It's hard for us to be able to do everything. We're gonna have to rely
Oh,
on
yeah.
staff and other boards and commissions to help us. So I think by doing that, and if we want that level of communication from them, to us, then I think we have to extend that courtesy going out also.
Have the department heads, recently been asked what they need? Like, have they been asked, Chief of Police, what can we do for you? What do you need? Fire Department?
In what aspect? Because I know that that's part of the conversation with the
Budgets.
budget talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you
That's what's
speaking
going on
about
now.
something,
Right.
or something different from that? That's usually where those
No,
kind
no,
of.
not necessarily,
ideas
just,
come
you know, what does each department, I don't know what recreation needs, I don't know what the fire department needs, you know, just,
Isn't that part of like the monthly staff meetings where they go around and see what, that's one venue for people to say,
right.
speak up and say what their needs are, but.
Are they doing that, Gary? I don't know.
We are. We
Okay,
have one.
all
Actually,
right.
we have one today.
Oh, all right.
I think also, and Gary, I think you and I talked a little bit briefly with Becky about this also, is my struggle a little bit is sometimes I think when departments submit their budget request, they're told that it has to be submitted either at level funded or whatever, so they're already kind of hindered, and I can say as a board, I don't feel like I have ever really felt like what they truly need to get to where a town of 10,000 people should be. Some departments I think are closer to that benchmark than others, but I don't think anybody is there. And so that's a little bit of the like long-term planning piece that I think will take off, but that's not an immediate solving the issue.
This is where I agree 100%, because you can't play the game if you don't have all the cards and pieces on the table. And if it's already gone through several filters by the time it gets to us, we think, oh, everything must be okay. Although we know everything isn't okay, but we don't know what the real issues are. So I think we all agree that it's not an open checkbook, but it's certainly an open, this is what we need.
Right.
I mean,
You
the
know?
finance committee used to ask for a needs budget and wanted them to put everything that they really felt that they needed. But then it always got drilled down because of, you know, whatever the school budget was gonna be, it had to be cut, so they just started cutting everything. And that's what always bothered me, and we tried to encourage department heads to speak up at town meetings, because the school comes and they say this is what they need, and they basically get it. The towns come in and tell the finance committee what they need, and then it's just broken down, it goes to town meeting, and you never hear that they never are getting what they actually need, and that it's always actually the negative. They're actually losing ground as opposed to growing.
Yeah.
And that story's never told,
Right.
so.
I think one of the things for the long-term planning piece is the communities that have a long-range planning committee in place are communities that have a fairly periodic 2.5 override put before their townspeople, but they base the needs off of the long-term planning needs. So, but they also include their school departments or their school districts in those conversations, so that it doesn't feel like doesn't matter what we're gonna, the school budget, no matter where you are, is between 60 and 80% of a municipality's budget. So it doesn't matter where you are, what the school system is, that's how it is. And so I think not including them in conversations is a hindrance, and I'm hopeful that with new administration in place, that we as a town can be open to having those conversations and trying to obviously be guarded a little bit, because we've been burned so many times in the past.
I mean, they've been invited several times over the years.
Right,
So hopefully with changes, as you said, we might be able to get better communication.
Right.
Because the school has never been open to communicating.
Right.
Especially with Rutland, because they figure we're just not gonna
Right.
support
Right.
the budget, so.
But I think what this board needs to do, in a passion of mine, and that's why it's the cost of doing business, if we know that education is 60 to 80% of a town budget, we have control over this much, how are we best managing that? And that's not to whittle DPW down to 3 employees and to not fund this, that, and the other thing. We need to figure out, okay, these are the situational problems. We need to figure out how do we solve for those problems. And that's why we're not being intentional. We need to, and we're being reactive.
And I think this communication piece, getting public outreach and input, is huge. I think Joe or whoever, I think Joe manages the DPW Facebook page, has been putting out a whole lot of budget information over the past few weeks, I think. And a lot of people, I mean, I haven't been following it super closely, but I've had a couple people reach out like, is this true? And I'm like, yeah. And,
No, it's a great idea. What do you say?
and so I think, I know not everyone is on social media, but encouraging, that's one avenue that I think we as a town need to get better at utilizing. And then how can we reach the people who aren't on social media or who aren't on as frequently or whatever? But to your point, Lyndon, like, people don't know. So it's...
But people are also asking, what have we got 4 people on water and sewer for?
Well, and I think that
I gotta be honest with you. No, I'm not gonna say it because we're on television.
No, and we're not, it's not
Right.
it's not a conversation probably for tonight, but these are the ideas, the things that we wanna try to get at the root of.
But that comes to the communication piece also, like, people have questions, and how is it best to bring those questions, if we have questions that are being asked of us, how do we best seek those answers and have those answers communicated? Because if somebody's reaching out to me, chances are there's 10 other people that have questions that maybe are reaching out to Skip and Lyndon and Tom and you, Carol, and if we can somehow figure out how to harness that and provide.
You know, it's an age-old question now, and it's not that old, is, you know, it used to be you could throw a mailer into everybody's mailbox. But that's huge cost prohibitive now. I mean, and we may find that at least you know that somebody's going to their mailbox and they're getting something out.
Right.
And that's still like a tried and true, where the others are shot in the dark. You know, we've got, I don't know, I'll watch another board's meeting or go back and watch something of ours, and it's like 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta,
inside.
you know, we are out there, but we can't force feed
Right.
people.
Right.
So it is the, how do you reach people?
Right.
Do we have I apologize if you said this already, but do we have a front person for that website?
Yes.
We do. Who is that?
Gonna be Tamika.
Anita.
Oh, Anita's
Oh,
going to be
Anita,
doing that.
that's
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So if inquiries
It's a
come in.
So she's going to, she's...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking, because if we're going to upgrade our
we're gonna,
town system, we should...
it's a conversation that
Okay.
she can be part of.
I think for any inquiries that come in through, like, the select board page, I think they go to Tamika.
Mhm.
But I think for the town as a whole, it's the town clerk's office that manages that. And I think just a couple years ago, we approved, I think it was free cash to spend to upgrade to the newest Civics Plus website or whatever.
Which is what we
So-
have, because I've gone on, I've watched a couple of their web Zoom meetings and things like that where they're doing different products. They have some things that we could really take advantage of. One thing that I'd like to see with communication, and maybe put it on there before we forget, everything that's going on in this town as a project, the DPW projects, our projects, I mean, we could make ourselves accountable. These are our things that we're working on this year as a board, and this is what we've come up with.
I
But
had,
you go to other
Yeah.
towns' websites and you look, and it's actually a tab on their nav. It's like,
I had talked to Joe about something similar because he has kind of, I think a while ago, he had shared with us his, like, project list, and it's a rough list, like, it's his working list. And I think I said it would be great to get that on the DPW website, so that way people can see everything that's being done, how it's being funded, that, you know, really it's a lot of grant funding, state funding, or state and federal, how much is coming in from whatever. I think the biggest struggle is most of our departments don't have the staff to do it to its fullest and best potential. And so I agree 100% that for all of us, it would be a huge benefit, and I think the struggle is.
well, you know, in some of this, to go with staffing is, to ourselves too, we can't go into this saying, we can't afford it. And just off the bat, we can't afford it.
Right.
What do we need? What's the cost and benefit to it?
Yeah.
Is there some pieces and groupings of things that can that's their job, part of their job is to work on the website, not only the revamping it, but, you know,
The project
constantly
lists.
getting updates and putting that out there, and then you couple that job, you know, that person or that position with, or you find somebody that wants to work 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week. It you know, buys pizza, and that's all they care about right now. So,
And some of that can probably be done remotely, and I think,
oh, yeah.
I mean, I think this is a conversation I know I've had personally with Gary, and I think for the staffing and probably some of the financial piece is having some flexibility with employees, and that also means that the supervisors need to have some accountability of the employees also, but we know it's municipal jobs don't pay what private industry pays, and so what can we do to also make it a potentially friendlier work environment for people who maybe can do 20 hours a week but can't be in Rutland 5 hours a day for 4 days a week or something like that.
Agreed.
So but I think that also lumps in with communication and just setting and policies and procedures and setting the expectations and knowing, you know, the baseline of like what's expected, and then you're not appearing to do your job, so then that gift is revoked and you're back in.
All right.
Have we ever explored like interns for doing?
Nope.
I mean, that might be.
I think years ago,
We've looked at
Have
it
we?
before.
I mean, there's
So
some.
we actually have
just think
used them to some
we have-
extent.
yeah. I
At
think
least 10 colleges, and this, I can't
Mm.
imagine that there's not somebody that wants to get into public.
Especially computers,
service.
the college kids now, I mean, my 8-year-old knows how to use a computer better than
Right.
I ever will. I mean, these college kids know what they're doing.
I always had 2 or 3 every summer, unpaid interns that worked for me.
I think some departments do have. I think police and fire and public safety have
Yeah,
some.
they do for one, yeah, once in a while.
And I think there's some of the senior work-off programs are seniors that do, in lieu of taxes, have a work-off program with some of the different departments. But to your point, yes, and I think Clark has a huge public administration program. I think Anna Maria has a pretty robust one also for people that may be interested in the public administration piece, and then WPI and
Like
most of them have
computer
computer
design
staff.
programs,
So
yeah.
put interns under staffing, and then did you put under the communication, the library project?
I put public outreach in, but I'll specifically write library project just as a reminder.
So, I know Leah spoke to it a little bit, but we talked about having somebody again from Wachusett or somebody from one of the colleges come in and work with our communications people and interviewing the chairs or somebody else from a board, a commission. This is what this job does, this is what we can do. So it's kind of civics.
Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but if you're talking about our cable setup, they're trying all the time to get people to come in, and they just can't find
I
them.
was
They
just
just
gonna
don't wanna come in.
I was just gonna say, I was just talking to them because they're so short-staffed right now,
Yeah,
and if they've
and
reached
they're-
out to the tech schools and the colleges,
Even
and
kids, they can't get kids to come
They
in.
can't get any of them. I
People
mean,
don't want to work when they're getting paid. There's just so many people that just aren't.
Yeah.
But I
don't
think
know.
also, a lot of the kids, for some kids that have the interest, they're not necessarily in Rutland, so to come to
to
Rutland.
come to Rutland's too far.
Right.
I mean, it's gotta be Princeton, Holden, right this close.
Paxton, like, yeah, this
It
side,
can't be down toward Worcester wanting to come out to Rutland.
Right.
What parents gonna bring their kid out here, 17-year-old or 8,
Even Sterling's tough, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I don't wanna nix it, but I know, in the past, and, I think different departments have tried to work with, like, WPI for their, project-based learning to see if we could have a project. I think some of the concern is the staff support to be able to provide the oversight for those individuals. They're so bare boned, our staff is so bare boned as it is, that then that's another big ask, because they're they're students, and maybe especially if they're unpaid, they're here to learn, and it's, yes, you're investing in people, but it's hard when you have a list a mile long that you can't get to, and then you're asked to.
Asking to teach somebody everything as you go. Right.
But I agree, it definitely is worth exploring for sure.
I mean, do you think it would be a waste of time to reach out to everyone in the community and ask if somebody, even designing a website, there are plenty of very smart people in this town plenty that do that for a living. They might be willing to do it
So I
for
think
free. You know, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Well,
So
part of the honors program is they've got to do so much community service and stuff, so if they use it as a project, I would think they could, if you just finding the right person.
Right.
right.
So I don't
And-
think we're gonna solve problems tonight, but I think we can keep finding problems.
Yep.
That need solving. No, I agree, you know, by the time the kid gets their license and can drive, they wanna do something else. So, next steps, grabbing couple of people, grabbing, I mean, we can't, obviously we don't have 8 people, so we'll be doubling up on some of these pieces unless, and I mean, somebody could individually do these, but I don't think that's probably the best approach. I mean, I'd like to do it all, because it all is like, but it's not efficient to do that.
Or feasible.
Maybe feasible too. Today, right now, sitting here, it's all feasible, but then I go home and think, what? I guess so bouncing off of that, how do we keep each other informed? And I don't know that how we have it at the end and it's a quick little update.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
No good.
gonna
Well,
help
it hasn't
us
worked 'cause
No.
nobody
at all.
updates anything.
Well, and by the end
So-
of the meetings, it's like everybody's done, and so I feel like it needs to be more intentional.
Do we need to have something like this? I don't want to say every month, because then we'll be in here three Mondays a month. But every quarter, so that would be every 3 months.
I wonder if we could do it if there's anything big coming, like up, that if we can add it to the agenda in like departmental
Yes.
update, like in that area, and then otherwise, I do think there is value to having an off, not to add another meeting to the mix, but to have an off night meeting to focus on this stuff at least.
What if we do one before every meeting and just rotate? So
It's hard for me to get back much
Yeah.
before 6.
no, I meant like when we have a department head come in, throw one of these on and have an update for that particular
But I
area.
feel like sometimes there's not enough.
Not enough to report.
Right, and so that's why I was thinking if there is something big, like coming down the pipe.
But I would think that too, that we may need some of these to hammer out some things. Like when all of the ideas, I'm just looking at the first one, we get all the ideas for the HR support that we need. We get all that together and have a meeting like this. It's open session, have a meeting, but hammer it out, and then it can come to the board for final,
Right. Well, to make sure that everybody's up to speed and
has input.
right. I was like up to speed, has input, because I don't want it to become
He said, she said.
right.
But even if like each group, and we used to have a lot of committees and would make recommendations to the director, each group can make recommendations even quarterly to the board, like you need a grant writer, or you need an HR person, or you need, I'm not saying I want all these people, but I'm just saying that if each group could just come up with some of the, in these areas, some recommendations to the board to take action. I mean, that
Yeah.
might be.
So some of those, like what you said, we also need to assign not just the need, but the cost. So
Right.
the immediate cost for short-term, if it's a short-term project, do we get somebody in for that? Can we do it for an intern? Can we do it for volunteer? Can we, spend a smaller amount of money to get something done, are there things, that can be done for free? Not a lot, but, because I don't want to start, and this is where I'm going to poke a hole at the ARPA, and a concern of mine right now that I have expressed individually, and now I'm going to say it for the world to hear. But we blew through a whole lot of ARPA money, and we have until, is it 2023?
2024 to commit, 2025 to
2024 to commit, and we could blow through that money like there's no tomorrow. And I've said,
And not have anything to show for it in
Right.
some way.
Well, to blow through that money
So-
and then go back to the town and say we don't have any money for things
For
it
things
could have
like
been
this.
covered through.
right.
I
So I
mean,
just that was my personal. Can we just slow the bus down a little bit,
Right.
because there is a lot of planning that needs to be done, and I think that, thinking that we were going to do this, and I thought, just so.
And I
Even when
think-
we're talking about looking, I don't mean to
No,
cut
go,
you-
no, go.
talking about, looking at the debt and if we're gonna look at projects and stuff like that, there's a lot of initial costs that we could actually use ARPA funds for, to look, if we're gonna look at considering buildings and this and that. Because a lot of times, money will come through from the state or the federal government, and they'll say, ones that are ready to go, then, okay, you can get funded. So if we have no initial information on what we wanna do, then we're gonna miss out on funding sometimes, and so we really need to do some planning at that end. So, if we're gonna build a building, start talking to an architect, engineer, whatever.
Get the
and get
feasibility
the-
done
yeah,
and the.
right.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, I think when Tom and I went to the new selectmen's meeting that had come up, was that there's so much grant money, especially this past year, available from the state, but everything requires the initial
Oh, right.
investment, the
Plan, yeah.
feasibility, the whatever, the plans, the
Pro-
feasibility, the engineering.
Build ready, they wanna, now,
Right.
they want projects to go now.
If we had that money, we could have.
Right, right.
But and that
do it
that
because
was
we
one of
don't
the
have
things
money.
that we talked about, was the smaller communities don't even have the funds to have
do
a
that.
project list that's ready to go.
Right.
And even if we did years ago, it's outdated and it needs to be
Right.
looked at again for a cost. And so it's not, yes, it's great that there's all this grant money available, but it's still kind of excluding the smaller, less commercial, well-to-do, whatever communities. So, but I think that that's a big piece of like planning and grant management and everything.
So I see a lot of this is not a list, this is a web that everything's gonna connect in some sort of way.
One thing, Skip, you brought up liaisons, and I miss not having them also. My struggle was when we had them, I think it was just my first year on the board that we had them, and it wasn't clear not what authority I had as a liaison, but when and how to bring questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions back to the board, and how that relationship looks. And I know a lot of other communities do have liaisons, and I don't know if it's I don't know the history of how they've been done in the past, but I don't know if there's also value into looking at how other communities do it, and if we are providing an opportunity similar to all of this for there to be.
And when I assigned them from the finance committee, I just wanted, so there'd be somebody on the board that had an understanding of what was going on in the department. And if an issue came up, they'd bring it to the board. But even if they didn't, when it came time to have discussions and stuff, you had somebody on the board that had knowledge
Speak to it.
of what's been going on in that department throughout the year, so.
Because there could be no select board decisions in these
Right,
things.
right.
And that was the idea, to help the individual, not to run the individual.
Right,
Right,
right.
And that's why it broke down. We had certain individuals that were
Right.
running their department heads, and it got to be a point where nothing was getting
it was supposed to be
accomplished.
just informational, so that,
Right,
like I said,
and-
somebody knew what was going on.
And I can see a little bit more like on the financial, and this is probably like my own brain block. Like I can see more on the FinCom side that there's a lot of value to understanding where the decisions are coming. But as select board, we see a lot, you know, like we look at a lot of different things and it's not solely the financial piece or anything. So we weren't attending every meeting and some people weren't going at all. And so I think there is value to it. I just would want to make sure that there's a clear understanding among the board as to
The
kind
role,
of
right.
the roles and the expectations.
Okay, so let's find out what that is. I don't know how to determine how
Yeah.
other towns do that.
Right, and then we'll just set it and say,
Um,
okay, you know, once there's a defined role, we'll just need
Can
to
we-
make sure people understand it.
Can we insert ourselves into these? And somebody's answering behind the scenes, I know,
Right.
but the boards, commissions, can we say we are coming to these
You
meetings?
can give an
No, you can
individual.
go to any
Or have to
meeting.
ask,
You
but
can
no,
you can
are
give
we
an opinion
asking
as an
them?
individual select
But are
person,
we
not for the board.
asking, if we are going to be a representative of the select board on another board,
Mhm.
are we asking that other board's permission to be there, not as an attendee, but as a,
No, anybody, because we're not gonna be on the board, we're just
Right.
attending like Skip always went to the finance committee meetings and, you know,
but
certain
he
meetings.
was
you did-
officially the liaison for that?
No, he
No,
just, even
no,
after
I
there
was-
wasn't even, he
no, I
always
was-
just went to them.
I just went to them.
And any board member can go to any meeting.
Right,
And if
and I
there's a
understand that.
specific interest, you know,
But I guess if
And-
we're not gonna make it formal,
Right.
right.
But the liaison was working with the department head, not any boards. It would be like,
oh,
I was working with Hapakowski when I was, I was his liaison back to the board.
so you're not talking about the,
With departments
Oh.
too,
We're
there were
talking about
department reps, and that's different because departments don't have like regular meetings, it's not
And I
like
think
committee
maybe
meetings.
that might have been before we had a town administrator, or
Oh,
right
yeah, it was.
during,
It was
because
way
I
before.
felt
Oh,
like
yeah.
once
Well,
we had a
it's-
town administrator, we didn't have, the time, for as long as I was on the board, we didn't have liaisons to departments. It was the town administrator, but then we were liaisons to boards and commissions, but it was only, I think, my first year on. And they sometimes would say, has the board talked about this at all? And I'm like, well, we haven't talked about it in this time. I can, if it's something you'd like to get on the, like us to revisit, or I can try to get it on an agenda, or, you know what I mean? It was not like, or, yes, we talked about it at this was what, the vote was this, if there was a vote, or this is like the summary or whatever. If they had questions as far as, how does the board feel about this? I think some of it was, I don't even remember. I think I was AgCom, and some of it was questions about CPA, but then they decided not to spend the time in that. And then the Ag Fund or something, and how, but it was, again, not any decision making. It was just kind of,
I think like Skip was mentioning, that the problem is in the departments themselves. All the committees and boards, then you kind of that's a different story, but when you're dealing with a department, you really, your only source is the department head, because
Right.
you're not sitting in department
Right.
meetings with them.
right,
But
yeah.
Are we allowed to go to these meetings now or not?
Some of you have attended.
Because
We don't go there.
we were told not to go there before. We were not allowed before.
Well,
I told you that.
No, I didn't say you did.
I might have told you that, but not the rest of the board.
Yeah, you probably.
well,
didn't.
I think it's for anybody that's not in town working, that's probably
Well, I don't
It's a
see
barrier.
how you can exclude us from going, but I would just hope that we wouldn't go there and
That's right.
insert our opinions, just go as an observer, because,
or
yeah, we're
people
not,
aren't.
because we're not there to supersede the
I was gonna
town
say,
administrator.
I don't want
Right.
it to appear that we're like
Exactly.
not empowering the town administrator.
Exactly.
Or that, and people clam up because
Yeah.
there's a board member.
Oh,
in there.
selectmen's here, I don't talk about him,
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
talking about him. Hey, Tom, Tom, he smiles too much, or, whatever.
All right. Do we want to assign ourselves?
So we're gonna do two? Or it's somewhere of that variation?
Somewhere on that variation, yeah.
I'd probably be interested in the first two, staffing,
I had-
because I always bring up
as
the
well.
HR stuff and the
lean-
finance.
I lean toward the finance, but if
Yeah.
somebody else wants the staffing, I will back off of that. So I'll just do, right now, I'll do the finance and take something else I need. Because like I said, I'm gonna do all of it.
So
I think
I'm,
it's all important.
I am on master plan and open space and rec anyway. But, so I'm happy to continue with that, but I'm also happy to let somebody else, because I'm already getting a big piece of that. I can do communication. I can do, I'm happy, I mean, I've kind of worked a little bit on staffing with Gary and Carol and Becky. The financial stuff, I have like the ideas of the long-term planning thing that I'm happy to share. Like I said, planning, communication, so I'm happy to go wherever. So Tom, Skip.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get involved in something to try and help out the rec department. I've talked to a few of the coaches, talking about upgrading fields.
So that's probably planning, you
Yeah.
think? Yeah.
I'll work with communications, I guess. I'll
Would
be
you
thrown
get
out
that
of-
website
I'll be
under
I'll be
control?
thrown out of people's offices.
All right, so,
So Carol, you kind of want staffing also?
but I can go someplace else too.
No, that like I said, I am fine to do whatever, because in a lot of ways I feel like if any of us have resources for anything else, we can shoot it to.
So the problem though, if you are already part of the master plan and things like that, would we be adding a third board member?
Yeah. Well, and I think for you having so much knowledge, it'd be a shame to not have your.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
fine.
you've gone through the whole process, so
Yeah.
I don't think
That's
we'd want
fine.
to take it.
I think that these two are wrapping up, and
Okay.
so it's more like the implementation and consideration
Right.
is to. So I'm happy to jump on that also. That's fine. I just wanted to see what the rest
Yeah,
of
if
the
there's somebody
board
else wanted it or something, yeah.
felt like and be.
And I'm not
Maybe-
asking you to be
no.
there if you want to do something different. I'm just,
No.
I'm
But you have that
concerned about
institutional
three board.
knowledge of the whole, you've been
Right.
doing it for a long
Right,
time.
right, right.
It'd be kind of
Yeah. No.
silly to say, okay, now don't do that anymore, you go
Right.
try something that,
Right. And I mean, I'm.
and you can jump on it, yeah, because everybody's trying to jump on too, right? It won't be everybody, but.
I was gonna say I can hop on communications because I had kind of with Skip. I kind of started working on the library project stuff, and then if Skip's not gonna murder me,
I offered to put you in the bucket of the tractor at the Memorial Day parade. I mean, the 4th of July parade, you wouldn't do it. And I promised I wouldn't dump you in the street and run over you. I promised you I wouldn't.
I think all of that communication stuff is so, it's all vital, but it's all going to center around how do we get the
How do we
information
get
out.
there?
Right.
right?
Because the public outreach, I mean, that's gonna be huge, getting our message out there.
And you can't do
Nobody
one
between
way.
18 and 50 pays attention.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's a shame we
Bottom
didn't
line.
drop that project you had brought up a while ago, because that sounded like good, and we were gung ho, we were gonna
Right.
go, and then it just kind of.
It kind of
Faded
fizzled
out,
in.
but-
So I think there's still library interest on the library side, and so it's just, yeah. So I'll recommit to that, and then. Carol, do you want to go on staffing, and then Tom can kind of plug in as needed, or Tom, do you want to hop on? So right now it's Lyndon on staffing, because I know the purple's hard to read. It's Lyndon and Carol on financial. Planning is Tom and Leah. Communication is Skip and Leah.
I think Carol should go up on the staffing, because her mind thinks like mine does.
She was thinking the same thing.
Wow. I am speechless. One, two. Tom, how many are you on, Tom?
He's on planning right now.
Did you want to do staff?
Sure.
And that
Because
way,
I'd like, I think it's nice that we're working with different people on the,
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fine.
and it
well,
kind of keeps it
well,
clear too,
Carol's gonna have to do the all-in thing anyway, right down there. Put her name down there and she'll put it.
what the all in.
intentional in
Intentional
all we
in-
do.
In all we do.
Move away from reactionary
Right.
reactivity.
I have a question. Do I have to, say I wanted to reach out to some
Yes.
colleges. Say I wanted to reach out to some colleges and ask about interns, ask about different programs they have. Is that something we all have to approve, or can I just reach out and do
You
that?
probably coordinate with Gary
Gary?
first
Okay.
anyway.
Okay.
Well, don't you guys agree? And then.
Just
if it-
for information.
Yeah,
not
oh, yeah,
for-
like, cause
Oh, yeah.
you'd wanna, cause he's kinda doing a lot of the hiring stuff and everything right now, so.
Just to get
That would
some
make sense.
information,
And then-
start getting,
Depending on what their talents are and stuff, you'd start working with whatever department would utilize
Right.
that intern, so.
Okay.
So one more thing that I want to bring up, and it's not on this list, but as you all know, I meet with Gary every other Tuesday, and that's what it is right now. So I will meet with him tomorrow to finalize the agenda for next Monday. Lyndon has been doing those with me for the most part. I would like, and I've asked Lyndon if he's good with it, and if Gary's good with that, I would like to rotate people in and out of that. I usually do it in the afternoon on Tuesdays, but Gary has said if that is a barrier to having the other people participate, if you want to, he's willing to do a 6:30 meeting.
yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, so about Lyndon, 2, 3, I don't, Skip, are you in? You wanna take a turn? Cause you can
I'm
meet
here
at 2
all
when
day
I
long.
am.
So it'd basically be once a month, basically.
Not even,
No.
no,
Well,
it'd be like,
it's the Tuesday before every meeting, so.
So it's twice a-
and it's
twice
all
a
of us,
month,
So, yeah,
and so almost every 2.5, 3 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost quarterly.
No, I think that'd be great.
I think it's a good time to kind of get a little bit more deep about what.
Well, it's more relaxed because you can sit there and the three of, you can
You
speak to the
get
town administrator prior
know a
to the
little bit about
meeting.
Mr. Kelleher and how mean and miserable he is and all that.
And I just, it's an organic conversation. It's like, so I think it's nice to hear about some other things that
Yep.
are going on in town that, or a department.
Yeah, not everything's
Or-
public, it's not hidden, but it's
No.
just not
Yeah.
necessary for the whole board to
Right.
discuss, so.
So, great.
So you gotta set up the schedule.
We'll set
So
up
am
the
I,
schedule.
so, is someone else going tomorrow, or am I going tomorrow? I don't care either way.
Skip, do you want to go tomorrow? 2 o'clock?
Depends what his calendar.
I just-
Of course, it was 3:30. I don't know when it got moved up to 2, but.
Why did you do that? And I can go,
Well, or unless you guys want, I don't
I
care.
can't, I
Yeah,
can't
I
tomorrow.
don't get out of work till 4.
Yeah, no,
so-
definitely. So
All right.
I'd like to
We'll
give Gary a
slow roll.
little bit. No, I'd like to give him a little bit of notice about working a very long day. So,
Right, right.
Okay.
um,
So,
Just a couple of things, Carol, if I can.
All
It started
right.
out, we had to change because of personal schedule of mine. We started on Wednesdays and moved it to Tuesdays. Wednesdays are okay,
okay.
Tuesdays are fine, Thursdays okay. I did, when Carol and I talked about it, I said, if somebody can't make it and wants to, I just think it's important, when we go to meeting, that somebody else different every time we meet is familiar with the agenda and how you put it together. But if you can't make it till 5 o'clock, I can stay till 5 o'clock. It's important. I think you and I shared that same feeling, that's important. It's just everybody, I don't know why you had to include Skip, but everybody else will be.
because the two of them think alike.
Because they
Oh, I know, I
share
heard that. That's kind of scary. I would have them both in the room at the same time. Woo. But I appreciate all of your input. and I
Okay,
think
so
we can do my schedules.
His
your
schedule's a little
schedules.
bit different. I thought Wednesdays were better because it gave an another business day to have something happen and possibly
And
get
that's fine,
on to
we can go
the.
back to
Okay.
Wednesday.
Well, don't do it this week, because I changed my schedule for when I begin my office in Hadley. So I'm gonna be in Hadley on Wednesday, so if you want me this week, it's tomorrow.
Okay. We'll figure it out, but
Because-
we'll accommodate everybody.
I used to go to Hadley on Tuesdays, but
Carol,
something changed.
I asked Tamika to attend last time. I thought it would be helpful, just to have her there and taking the notes and
Oh,
discussing.
yeah, because she has the
stuff about
draft
issues of
agenda and
day,
like
if you will,
the
so.
basic stuff that's already on
And
there.
Beth used to attend them.
Yeah,
I think it's helpful because sometimes Tamika has ideas as to what would be, if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
background information, just because she's
Yep.
involved in everything.
Plus she
like-
takes notes and then she goes and does an agenda, so,
Right.
right.
Doesn't matter.
so
to
that
me,
was a
but yeah.
side note. Thank you for
Yeah.
handling that. That's great. All right, so, I mean, I guess at this point, we'll leave it up to the teams to meet. And
So
whatever
we
that
decide
looks
on
like.
Tuesday or
And
Wednesday?
Tuesday,
It's
tomorrow.
tomorrow's Tuesday. Whatever time you want, Gary,
Two-
whatever.
2 o'clock?
Yeah, I can make it. Tomorrow I can.
Um,
Am I allowed to text this to you that then you can send to everyone?
Yeah, because, well,
Information?
Tamika's
This
gonna
is-
watch
this is-
this and she's gonna type
Right,
everything up too,
this is
so.
public.
Okay.
Yeah, let her
It's a
type
public
it up.
meeting.
Okay.
I mean, you could send it like that to Facebook. Let them on.
No.
They'll be like, what is her chicken
What is
scratch?
this?
Does she not know how to spell?
So I will encourage the teams to make it work however, and like I said, get department involvement, get community involvement, get other boards and commissions. I hear you with the more the merrier, but sometimes that gets so big that it
Mhm.
kind of gets out of control, which I'm sure you know, so as long as it's manageable.
And do you foresee, obviously some of these are very interconnected, and so do you foresee kind of when things become interconnected, kind of working with Gary to bridge the gap and then meeting, or
we could,
Do
we
one of
could
these
do
again.
one of these again and put it all on the table. I think
Yeah.
that would be, I would enjoy that,
yeah.
knowing, what's going on, and I think that we did a real lot in an hour and a quarter.
I was like, this was really productive, I think,
Yeah.
like, and
So it
so,
wouldn't hurt to have another meeting like this if something
right.
I do.
gets near finalizing.
And
Right.
maybe we could, grab one of these walls and, put up the pictures in the red yard.
Right, right, we can make like a, yeah,
Who's next?
right,
You have my
Crime
number, right?
scene.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so,
Excellent.
very good.
Please send that to everybody.
Okay, yeah,
It's not, it's,
okay. I was like, I can send it around, I just didn't wanna like step, you know what I mean, like,
we're all good. We're all good.
anybody,
You took the picture and everybody else has to
Right.
take it too, so
Right.
just.
and I was up close, so,
Yeah. All right.
okay, very good.
Anybody?
That was good.
Motion adjourned?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Adjourned.
Thank you.